Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to dive into two stories that on the surface have absolutely nothing to do with each other. But when you look closer, they reveal this hidden physics of perception, a really profound truth about how we actually see the world. All right, let's just dive right in. We're starting with two perfect problems. In one corner, you've got this town called Soar. Every single mirror there is flawless. Not a scratch on them, but they're completely blind. They reflect nothing. And then in the other corner, we have a man, Theo Jure. His vital signs, they're textbook perfect. I mean, exactly what you'd want to see. And yet, he's completely unresponsive. So you've got these two flawless systems, right? And both of them are fundamentally deeply broken. And that right there, that leads us to the big question that unlocks everything in these stories. What if perfection is actually a form of blindness? Think about it. What if a perfectly sealed surface, like a flawless mirror, or a body with zero irregularities, literally can't perceive reality? What if being perfectly whole means you've completely shut the world out? Okay, so part one, the illusion of a perfect world. How can something be perfect and broken at the same time? I mean, it sounds like a total paradox, right? To start unraveling this, we've got to take a trip to the very strange, very beautiful town of Soar. So this town of Soar, it's like a world sealed in a glass jar. It's perfect, but completely non-functional. The mirrors, like we said, are blind. The central fountain, bone dry. The roads that are supposed to lead out of town, they just mysteriously curve right back in. And time itself is just weird. It's unhurried. The clocks all tell different unrelated times. You've got this clockmaker, Emre, who repairs these beautiful mechanisms just for their beauty, not because he expects them to actually tell time. It's a place where everything is perfectly whole, but absolutely nothing works. And at the same time, in a sterile hospital room, Theo's perfection is much more clinical. His brain scans are literally idealized. His emotional state is described as completely full, which is this bizarre, perfect equilibrium of every single possible emotion at once. So his body is this flawless machine, a sealed vessel running in perfect balance. But just like the town of Soar, this perfection has created a total lockdown. It's completely cut him off from the outside world. Okay, so now for part two, seeing everything at once. In both of these hermetically sealed worlds, this sterile, quiet perfection is about to get completely shattered. And it's shattered by this overwhelming flood of true, totally unfiltered reality. It starts in Soar. A stranger, a woman named Liel, shows up with this very strange lens. And when the clockmaker looks through it, it's not just magnifying things. He looks at a plain plaster wall in his workshop, and he sees an actual recession of space, a pocket of real distance just folded into the wall. It reveals this hidden dimension to reality, a depth that was there the whole time, but nobody could see it. And then you have Theo. When he finally speaks, he describes something incredibly similar. He says his whole breakdown started when he suddenly saw, everything, all at once. Not as separate things, a chair here, a table there, but as one single continuous substance he calls the seeing itself. The illusion that he was a separate person, a seer, looking at a seen object, it just stopped. It was a total system overload, like it tripped his body's main circuit breaker. Which brings us to part three, the wound is the window. This is the crucial point, right? If seeing everything all at once just completely fries your circuits, then how do any of us perceive reality? How do we function day to day? Well, both stories arrive at the exact same really startling answer. Back in Soar, the clockmaker Emre has this incredible aha moment. He realizes a perfect clock, it has no reason to run. It's already complete, it's finished. So what does he do? He takes a file and deliberately creates a tiny imperfection, a wound in the mechanism. And that little wound gives the clock a voice, a reason to move forward into the next moment. And this is where it gets really beautiful, because the exact same idea pops up in Theo's story. His doctor, Marin, remembers something her grandmother used to say. God made people out of clay and left gaps in the firing, on purpose, so that the rain could get in. A pot without those gaps is just a useless stone. It's the imperfections that allow life, the rain, to get inside. The wound is the window. And boom, right there, the two stories just lock together. They're describing the same exact physics of consciousness. The central thesis is this: perfection is a sealed surface. It's blind. It's lifeless. Real perception and life itself can only happen through the wounds, the cracks, the gaps in our reality. So an imperfection isn't a flaw to be fixed. It's literally the doorway to seeing anything at all. All right, part 4, the current beneath. So if the gaps are how we see, then what are we seeing? What is this rain that gets in through the cracks? What's on the other side of that window? What's fascinating is that both narratives describe this underlying current, this substance of reality itself. It's called liquid attention, or the seeing itself. It's this continuous flow, and in it, we're not separate solid objects. We're just temporary folds or creases or knots. This current is the force that was powering Soar's ever-burning lamps and the clock that ran without being wound. And it's the very same stuff that poured through Theo when his personal filter, his sense of self, just broke down. Okay, so this is all pretty mind-bending stuff, but what does it actually mean for us? How do we live with this? That brings us to part 5, living in the gap. And the story of Gite gives us a name for this whole philosophy, this idea of embracing our beautiful, necessary imperfections. And that word is Gite. It's a French word, and it has these 3 amazing meanings that all combine into one big idea. First, you have Gite, which means the lean of a ship, an imbalance, an imperfection. Then you have Gite, which is a shelter, a temporary home for travelers. And finally, it comes from an old verb jaisir, which means to lie down, to surrender that upright posture of control. So you put them all together, and Gite becomes this term for a way of being. It's about accepting your lean, finding shelter right there in that imperfection, and surrendering to the flow. So this philosophy of Gite isn't just an idea. It's almost like a practice, a 3-step guide. First, acknowledge the lean. You have to recognize and accept your own imperfections and imbalances. They aren't flaws, remember? They're your windows. Second, find shelter in the gap. Actually learn to inhabit that space of not knowing, of being permeable, instead of trying to build a sealed, perfect fortress. And third, surrender to the flow. Let go of this illusion that you're a separate, solid self, and just accept that you're a process, a temporary pattern in this huge, amazing current. And Theo's final inlight really just ties a bow on the whole thing. It's such a radical statement. He says, the gap is what's real. The surfaces on either side of the gap, those are the constructions. Think about that for a second. Everything we think of as solid, our identity, our beliefs, our certainties, he's saying those are the illusions. And the empty space, the gap between them, that's what's actually real. It just completely flips your perception of reality upside down. So what's the ultimate takeaway here? I think it's really a question for all of us. We spend so much energy trying to patch our cracks, trying to present this perfect, unbroken surface to the world. But maybe it's time to stop. Maybe it's time to turn this lens on ourselves and ask, where are the cracks in my own seeing? Where are my wounds? Because according to these stories, that's exactly where the light gets in.